I have two specific questions that I've been struggling with that came up just last week in such a distinct way that I want to bring them forward. It is in my attempt to reach for the thought that feels better and not pinch myself off from the stream of well-being that's coming to me. And I have noticed within myself these episodes of severe depression and despair. And when I sit in that place, and I thought of petting the cat, and it's almost like the cat better not come near me. I'd rather just shot put it as opposed to pet it. You know, I mean, the energy is so negative.
So what you're saying is you've let yourself go pretty far into your place of not receiving.
Yes.
So much so that you are a much better match to things other than source energy. And since the cat represents source energy, you just as soon kill it as pet it.
Yeah, I never looked at it that way, but yes, I believe that's what I'm doing.
So your question might be better, how can I catch myself in the earlier, more subtle stages of disconnection so that it doesn't go so far? You see, that's what the earlier question was amplifying also. Wouldn't it be better for me to stay in my place of contentment, not wanting anything, than to allow myself to want something that I don't believe and have that energy moving so fast? And we say, well, each of you has to find your way in this. You can always get back. We believe it is just holding the knowledge that you can get back. We think that once you know that you will feel better. The other day, around this issue of sound, while Esther was still holding a lot of tension around it, and she was sort of in the blaming mode and in the frustrating mode, and she was embarrassed about it. She didn't like the idea that they are teachers of deliberate creation and they have a seminar that even the tapes cannot be heard well. And so she was sort of fussing around in that energy, and Jerry was working on another project, and he said to Esther, Esther, is it all right with you if I have a little chat with Abraham? And Esther said yes. And so Esther moved into the room where Jerry was and sat on the sofa and put herself into a relaxed mode and asked that she could receive clearly our words. That's usually the way she puts it. And as she relaxed in that mode, this big ball of tension just lifted off of her. Someone watching energy would have seen black clouds lift off. And Jerry had his chat, and then we said to Jerry, it is interesting watching Esther's body release tension. And of course Esther felt wonderful after the chat, and she said to Jerry, now why didn't I do that 6 hours ago? You tend to get caught up in whatever it is that you are about, rather than remembering that nothing is more important than that you feel good, you see. Part of it is that you, not just you, as physical beings, you have come to associate success with struggle. When success comes through struggle, it is mediocre success. You really come to believe that you must earn your success by paying some sort of a price. It would be like the power being off in the building, and you just keep unplugging it and plugging it in. There's no current at all in the socket, and you say, well, maybe if I try it again, maybe if I try it again, well, maybe if I put it in that plug, or maybe if I put it in that plug, or maybe if I turn it over, or maybe if I punch the switches on my contraption more. And we say, if you're not hooked up to the stream of energy, then you can take all that action you want, and you're not going to get results. To be your foremost consideration. And when it is, we do not think you will get very far for very long away from your connection, once you understand that that is what you are always reaching for.
The help that I'm seeking is when I am sitting in that negative place I've gotten myself into by this constant negative way, what-ifing and reacting to it as though it were real, is this sense of kind of a temporary insanity where it feels like someone else is thinking my thoughts for me, almost, although I know there's not a law of assertion, it's like I don't have control over my own thinking process.
Has it helped you at all to think in terms of, there are three things, I'm asking, universe is yielding, am I in the receiving mode or not? Do you think that in the future that you may find yourself saying, well, I'm doing it now, I'm doing it now?
Yes, definitely.
We believe that when you are aware, as you're moving along, that it will be rare that you will find yourself in such a faraway place. And so this will be an unnecessary exercise because you're not as likely to get there again. When you catch yourself in the early subtle stages of your negative emotion, then you're not going to get into those stronger and stronger places. But what about those topics where you already have a strong, pointed, highly focused desire and a belief that doesn't match it? Well, just about any time you focus upon what you're believing, if it doesn't match your desire, you're going to feel that. We'd stop right then and say, this strong emotion means I've got a powerfully focused desire. And then we would sort of pat ourselves on the back for having a strongly focused desire. And then we would try to laugh a little bit about where our beliefs are. And then we would remind ourselves that nothing else has anything to do with this outcome, only our own connection, only our own alignment with it. And we think that you can soothe yourself back into alignment.
What has really helped me is something you said just a few minutes ago that I didn't realize, is then when you've talked about having an access card and swiping it and having a range. And the last time I dealt with this was last week, where it took me about 3 days to reach for the thought that felt better. However, when I got there, I realized my range was somewhere between I really want to die to this situation is totally hopeless, which wasn't a real big range. But I thought, okay, you've been listening to these tapes, now go with this. Find something in there that feels even a tiny bit better. This happened to be around a relationship issue and being left. So the only thing that I could find that wasn't even a tiny bit vibrating better was, all right, you're being left, but not for somebody else. You're just being left. And that actually was enough to step me from that hopeless place. And from Abraham, I went, oh my God, it works. You know, I was so delighted that even though it took me maybe about an hour longer of stay there, a little bit better, all of a sudden I was in a range where the love just started to flood in. Every cell in my body started to vibrate.
So the piece that you found here today in greater clarity is, without realizing it, you've been actually doing the opposite of that.
I didn't know you could do that. I didn't know from the worst thought you could actually go backwards. I thought, I really didn't know that. I thought, oh my God, you can go the opposite direction.
How do you think they get so bad?
I really didn't see that.
Well, that's an important thing, isn't it, to understand? That
I didn't
because
get
law
it.
of attraction is bringing you more of wherever you are vibrating. And so that's why you say, and we think it is a good thing to say, you can't stand still. Whatever your vibration is expanding to more of same. And that's why it is ever so valuable to reach for thoughts that feel better, so that your expansion is in the direction of your desire.
Yeah.
Yes. And so you've answered your own question, haven't you?
Yeah.
I will be more aware so that I won't let myself get there.
Yes.
And if by chance I get there,
Yes.
it's not such a big hairy deal, is it?
No.
So what? If I've got myself in a strong place of despair, I know what it means, I know how I got there, I can move myself off of it if I want to. Or I could be miserable all day long and then go to bed, and when I wake up in the morning, I'm automatically in a better place.
Right.
And each day I wake up, as I regurgitate this subject, I will start in a better feeling place each day until in a matter of a few days I can really be reverberating in harmony with what I want.
Yeah, that thought really gave me the springboard because I didn't have an awareness of that. So,
Well, one of the reasons that we wanted to highlight that here today is because you've heard us say, we've said the same thing in other ways, less defined for you, as we say, an illness or a disease always gets new life after diagnosis.
of course.
And that's why. In other words, because once that happens, that's the worst thought that you could think. And once you get there and you hold it for 17 seconds or a day or a week or a month or however long you do, then it becomes your center range. And then something even worse comes into range, which they'll find once they get the x-rays back. And then you hold that, and then they do another test. And then have you noticed that in that reaching for the thought that feels worse and finding it, and reaching for the thought that feels worse and finding it, out of that comes stronger and stronger desire that often then brings someone back into a greater state of well-being than they've ever had. What we are saying is we don't think that we would be willing to go so far in order to get that. And that's what our earlier question was about. In other words, that's what your question was about contentment. If I reach this far, then aren't I likely to give myself access to this thing that I do not want? And what we're wanting you to realize is that you have control in all of that. Nothing else is taking you out of control. Yes.
That's great. I thought your bottom was your bottom, but I see now that when you get
Oh,
to your
there is
bottom,
no bottom.
that's the center.
There is no bottom.
That's the center, and yeah.
There is no bottom,
Okay.
just like there is no top.
Okay,
The
got
only
it.
question is,
Got it.
what are you willing to endure
Gotcha.
before you
Yeah.
finally reach for your connection back to source energy?
Got it.
Yes, indeed.
Cool.
It is.
Now this.